Right. Well, good evening and welcome to DIA and the Readings in Contemporary Poetry series. I'm Megan Woodco, and it's my pleasure to welcome everybody here this evening, and particularly to our first event of 2014. Curated by Vincent Katz, our Readings in Contemporary Poetry series was reinstated in 2011, and it takes the opportunity to highlight commonalities amongst poets, whether that be aesthetic or personal, and it also presents writers of different generations and creates parallels between their work and their voices. So it's my great pleasure this evening to welcome our two poets, Louis Warsh and John Coletti, and we want to thank you both for generously agreeing to be a part of the series. And we also want to thank the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs. Their generous support helps make these events possible every month. And we also want to give a quick shout out to Brooklyn Brewery, who provides the free cold beverages every evening, which is awesome. And also to our entire staff at DIA, who helps run these programs for us as well. So just a quick announcement about the schedule for the evening. After our first reader, we take about a 10-minute intermission. You can check out the book card, grab a second beer, and after about 10 minutes, we'll resume with the second reader for the evening. I also wanted to mention that we printed for the first time these beautiful blue cards that have the whole schedule of the series for this season. Unfortunately, due to snow, we had to reschedule Bruce Andrews and Nana Gordon, so that has the wrong date, but they'll be on March 31st, and the rest of the series is on the card. So if you want to grab one, put it on your fridge, might help remember the next time. So with that, it's my pleasure to welcome Vincent Katz up, and he'll introduce our first poet for the evening.
Thank you, Megan, and thank you all for coming. It's exciting to be back here after we were snowed out in February. That was Bruce Andrews and Nada Gordon. That reading's been rescheduled for March 31st. So I hope you'll all come to that. And then subsequent readings will be David Trinidad and Joanna Furman on April 7th, and Charles Burkhouse and Ariana Rains on May 12th. Mark your calendars. But I think this duo is actually ideal to kick off this year's series and maybe the actual approach of spring. John Coletti is the author of Physical Kind from Portable Press at Yo-Yo Labs, Same Enemy Rainbow from Fewer and Further Press, Mum Halo from Rust Buckle Books, and Skazers, a half book with Anselm Berrigan from Flowers and Cream. Other recent projects include a libretto for an opera composed by Caleb Burhans, and the eagerly anticipated collection Deep Code, forthcoming from City Lights later this year. Explosively Rational, the first poem in John Coletti's new book, begins, quote, "We keep ruining our lives to be wonderful," end of quote. There could be many interpretations to this line, but what comes to mind to me is Paolo Sorrentino's recent film, La Grande Bellezza. Coletti's poetry, especially his recent poetry, has something of Sorrentino's ability to consolidate the humanity of a generation's failure, of everyone's ultimate failure, within a large-scale cultural scope. Coletti's poem continues, quote, "I am not convinced, but neither am I unconvinced." Like Jep Gambardella, Coletti in his poems is intimately connected to, yet curiously apart from the world he observes. Coletti's poetry is known for its rapid jumps from subject to subject, verb tense to verb tense. Again, a somewhat cinematic effect, aligned to a latter-day avant-garde vision, but very much in the pocket of his culture, a wide-spreading group of fellow renegade artists. That mode reappears in his new book, as in the conclusion to the poem, I'll Show You. Quote, Connecticut flags wasted on Hart Street, a lifelong beating in mills, ships, and factories, the cigarette freedom of debt-free living, optics, emotions, confusions, arts deeply feeling lost, end of quote. But an additional, more continuous mode surfaces in Coletti's recent poetry. Here is his short poem, Yesterday's Papers, in its entirety. Quote, I touch gentle people in peaceful ways, albeit aggressively, at the heart. Only one way to love, don't break easily, end of quote. Interestingly, he seems able to maintain both modes, and his readers and listeners have come to recognize the roundness of his rhythms that consistently anchor his work, no matter how abruptly he may choose to swerve. Coletti's recent work, from which he'll be reading tonight, continues its experimental frisson on the levels of word and syllable, while experimenting too with a newer poetic that, in doing less violence to traditional syntax, allows him to encompass even larger aesthetic and social pools. It is a great pleasure for me to welcome John Coletti to DIA.
Lots of rough hands. Your own God, almost. Some nights touch hands. You have the opportunity to be otherwise in this sea filled with eggs, now leaflet, now branch, sleep on the floor, whether angry or not. Thank you, Vincent. There are a lot of people in this room, not just friends, but just heroes and teachers. And I am nervous, which is a good thing. This is going to be the final pass I do before I turn in this book on the Ides of March next weekend. And I have it in a binder because my last reading, I had it loose leaf in my hand, and the entire reading went on the floor right as I started. So I didn't need the table I asked for, so that's good. And so I'm going to just read through. It's longer than I ever would read or will read again. And this is deep code. Explosively rational. We keep ruining our lives to be wonderful. I am not convinced, but neither am I unconvinced. The primary colors go 1, 2, 3, red, yellow, and blue. Dukes up. The Easter egg hunt, inherently cruel, religiously obscene. I see one. Let me get one. Tears, like that. An epiphenomenological account from like organisms teasing at the homegrown in a banged-up locker that convinced me at the edge of darknesses that I want to be, enjoy being family kept spilling. I never underestimate and demonstrate daily the capital shock, then wooed and won by wireless. Weeds I thought more beautiful, tilted, like a panic serpent, calming core doubts. It's been a little rough. Pancakes at midnight, pancakes at day. Medieval reenactors dragging that one aria from Turandot, around your eye, forever closed. the tingling of clean crystal lights, then laid back down. Don't rot, saith Beaker. The tendered, non-capital evening, a third wave, starting fresh. Yesterday's paper, I touch gentle people in peaceful ways, albeit aggressively at the heart. Only one way to love. Don't break easily. Recovery, because it can't transcribe our own hand-wringing. Sneak into the Met, in back of the gift shop. Picasso lithos, $4,000. Glorification of the Giustiani Tiepolo, 1784 to 1785. Goya's Manuel Osorio Manrique de Zuniga in bright orange-based red, holding a pet magpie on a string, calling card in its mouth. Jan Gossart, Antwerp, mannerism. Cluttered compositions in elegant poses, exaggerated draperies, and excessive embellishments of all kinds. Broken leg. It's gonna be like this book. Broken leg. One for home, for job, for debt, for squirms, for love, flap, 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 page, 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 scrutinized by a figurine Hermes. All the crazy shit I did tonight, last night. Sleepwalking with a snake, Red Cross, Peugeot lion, extra freaky, and sort of in song, ex Fabrice. Chestnut stuns eyes, reminds me I'm meat, gives me goosebumps, stopping to look. There you are. Guilt sweep. Broke Jay's pipe, looking up legal defense for some Muppets, smoking Tinseltoe under Charles North's Choir Angels, on Aquarium Brawl, Rain and Blood and Love in It, all over Aerosmith and Zeppelin, in the milk canoe, being a psychopath with ethics, an epic mountain cat. Dana at Denny's. I don't want much, but I want all the experience. Put on Charlie Rose, eat cupcakes, helmet smash, read the birth story over iPhone, and it felt like it was the end and beginning of writing. I'm gonna be 23 Tuesday, 51 Wednesday. Dale Jr. shredding an axe on a cascade of sparks. You around, beauty face? What else, man? I had a dream about us the other day. Oh, that's amazing. Laura got me a Casio so I could time the reading, and it worked. I'm done. You around, beauty face? What else, man? I had a dream about us the other day. Duh. I was among the gods of Olympus, living on the Rhine, and we both rode crew. Jesus Christ. Bye, honey. My day won't get any better. Meme. Yoda Bio. This was written at Simon Pettit's apartment. Meme. Yoda biofeedback glass. When wild things happen, we behave like ourselves. Danish crown, spit into mattress blower, A debauched week? Yes, it has been. So high tide, glue, anti-glue, endless. FML, AIF, UUL, fire. Truphodian, lion mane, summer ceiling, demon gaze, vacation spiked, steak mountain, Andrew lulls. Annoyed by the truth venom, goddammit, off. Trying not to get uppercase percentage sign, pound sign, dollar sign, or at sign, pound sign, percentage sign, dollar sign, ampersand. Tonight. Push-ups and Angry Birds. Best Western. Pepto, salmon, egg, caviar. I thought to make an import-export of it. Something very shady and underground. This is called Catawampus. Or Kittywampus. Catawampus pitch drip, 1.3 miles per hour, slower than you think, unique upper poverty like you had the choice. Auto cannibal, MFA, to macro approach, backwood belching by Johnny Go Boom. E-cigs and immense paralysis, that the drop does fall a bit slower than you think, damaged or getting over. Nights in Fairmount as the Cid is gred. The knee, the knuckle, the golden glow, asteroid mining, bowling ball, airplane towns, unrecognizable phone number, the final outpost, re-traumatized Bridgeway. That piece of your heart's personal condiment I'd earned when I was a decent person, but therapy said, no more of that, bright pigeon. Then came on the stammering, tiddlywinks, well, you don't have to be rich to be cuffing each pant leg, playing dangerous bargain with unethical and delicate, yet under the Christmas tree, you don't get to bully me. But I think you should write a poem about how we watched Paris 71 there, that my bike on the corner being a great metaphor for why everything seems so difficult when all I want to do is raise everyone up, not having to trust anyone or lay myself on them in protective regret. And as my baggage has baggage, if you follow, I'll follow the miracle lint bent of its bulb. Well, I guess Shaggy's won. The lifestyle non-fight of pre-hot dobe, teaching heathens Genesis, part figure, part light. In Orleans of self-re-recovery, cut off an auxiliary, so I what? To wear this hat all the time? Okay, so now what? Reaction time, plus assumptions, plus oops, you wrong, crib toad. Gremlin pause, preacher fuzz. According to Southern rules of hunting, for this title, unservable, I know, children are awful. They stare too much at bold abstraction. Thanks, Shane. Thank you so much for thanking me. So taste of the delicacies. Red panda statue. Outside, holy cow. I do not like how plain your tenderness is. I like those bells. Canned has happened to me a few times in the last couple of years. Canned. The leaves in the water, I let them, are scum. Bluefish, blackfish, fluke, and bass. And I keep watching them lay there. Beard hairs, stuck to garden clippers. Concepts? Well, maybe. Oh, please. This is called TRex, but it's not the band. Some friends of ours in New Orleans do a Mardi Gras parade that are miniature floats, like yay big, and they just drag them sort of like toy style. So this is called T-Rex, Petit Rex. Late Scorpions Bishop Splat, totally re-traumatized by Dan Smith, watching Fire walk with me on the bed with a big bag of Buffalo kettle chips. And scene. There is no privacy except in publicity. Thompson's water seal is a marble in tragic disgust. LDS, shit Robert, soft power plus normal disaster, pre-psychotics, distressed by abstract pain. Trans Am 2006, packing in low-cal Gatorade. All that teenage math trader, non-normative Marine in me, a pop star, whoa, like eggs, young, enormous. Say yerp, says Casey's, a phone that pulled out, pulled back in. Country strong, civically challenged, 3 raptors, one on each other's back, shoveling snow into the great white roll. No longer a primate in crisis. To see, must be Friday. Craig Carton, Curtis Sleevaw, Major World KFC Bucket List Chart of Extreme Ambivalence, 1921 Duchamp, U.S. Opens for you. In slight rain, hieratic, emerald white, soft sunset puka shells. Broadcast sports. Being unemployed's kind of like Sunday morning, every day. Grasping, sighing, overthinking. Switch. And marks me on the knuckle with a blue mark. Faded St. Louis tie, matching Javon, crew member with Krista, crew member, Trader Joe's badges, Santa stocking, transformer, bazooka, bike lock, Reaper bot, key, diagram of heart, 2 angles, medical, buckets, unchecked, triceratops, and the bad glue that made us good friends. Watching winter's mirage twist, out parting nervousness. Why won't you just take me to Olive Garden? Too busy, pumping shoulders. Ain't seen those eyes in a while. Shrigley, Eagle tanker, time to shred. Lost the light, all light, all light. Archery. Archery? Fuck them and their arrows. Their arrows and their bows. Their chimes and their arrows. Big beers for Brad. 1-800-lawyer, but also who cares? This is the reason bald men like tailoring. Then what? Then nothing. painful to watch. I sometimes cry a lot for no reason. I in white lettering, quick cement. We're okay. The recitation of the problem after Paul Tech. Goodbye, bye water, then tilts and falls backwards, pushing around empty strollers when I let go. Typo baggies, yes, yum. Bad possum. Okay, sure, I'll do. Not so much hug love, got plenty. Skip cats, be beautified. Christian small joy, big courage fail. Won't answer, gauzy Bruce, Getty Dam. Like community attentive, serious spiritual hernia. I guess my night out ended like this. Impeccable beauty and the ensuing slug in the gut. Simple forms obtaining post-Foucauldian frigid hum that needs be akimbo, grown up wrong. Evidence source. This might be the first time I've read this, actually. Evidence source. My brother, my father, my dearest friend. Filth, filth. You're nothing but filth. Stonehenge on the 12:32 a.m. pizza, scattered, partied out like science on daisies. Micah and Greenwater, though we lay broken, slowly rolling the whip out by Bergen and Fifth. The lilt in your heart I can change. All puffy-mooned, exhausted Helvetica Neue, trees on it, shrapnel. Dancing up and down the mall, plush-stuffed, adorable, hostile, silent, in treatment silence, happy baby fucked me up. Or so you thought, pinned to an eight-wheeler, when you reached into the empty and came up sun. Out on sad period wretch, well, we may never be friends, but I went upstairs to chip at some floor oats, pill popping at fridges, selfless, shameless selfies. Lints up, beats. I mean, use fears, people. Zero parental control. How way the fuck up there. Garage banging water beds by the permanently accessible and emotionally dodgy Amway representatives I welcome now shaving off frost. Dixie's old qualities defied of undignified well, but still, today was a really nice day. Just wasn't you. Charged, exhausted, late stage adult acne, magic markers all over the temples, borrowed trophies, obsolete failures, 3 weepy bracelets, drifting 2 at a time, undoing the tenderness of a youthful meta-cluck, tagged back by social mediocrity, being that fallow. I hate them. At the end of purity, countless snags saying yes to a fad brand of mild cynicism. Devotional ESP and a nail ripping through its cargo spit-ats, slipping offline to devote long-haired truck yards to available row. Eardrums with coffee shakes super crispy, all outline, deities born cut up fall. Life is oil drum, nice guys, dream catchers, toxic face and behavior wash, ouched by his posters of desperation, and the most miniature talon I will not reproduce. Face of a fool? Yes, for many I have been. Ceiling tape bundles. Walk around Venice all day. Google Earth. Pretty satisfying. This street, that one. Each place I know, knew. Time travel exists in your mind with a crutch. Puked up hipster, last bit of goodness, G's on shuttle, crying invisible soup. Human breath capsized between LP and Crescent. Worth it, always, every time. Leaning tower of smart water. Pretty you. You there, all pretty. Pure dust and sauce splatters, erasures, incomplete harmony, stuffed into batting cages, looking pretty with apple. Most beautified sweat and fog exhaling depth. Lately, was it fucking me down? Totally. It was, wasn't it? Everyone noticed. This is deep code. Deep code. Panya in cuffs, tuned up F-inch, banana jack, phone wrangler, palm blood, slot car, fingertip, rhino. Little shits to horrified man. I can only cry at the movies or work. Restaurant aerosol, lepidolite, periwinkle, chalked up ship, present thick, thawing chemical frost. Getting laid, the cold it takes away, adjusting to a loose black sweater. Framed by gravel, unnatural warmth, hollowed muscles, soft lips, your neck, a bicep, and tremors playing air piano for a map of South America. 105, 90, 75, 60, 45, 30. That exquisite porcelain penknife with a painted donkey on the end, raising up from the pack. I saw a picture of Schumann the other day and remembered my hair clippings. Paw bone, paw bone, paw bone, paw bone. How graphite shines when you color on color, rattled like a paper match. Black, white, black velvet squares, abstracted geometrically. Kermit Pez, Barney Pez, glowing in lap. Life can be tolerable if this is the best and worst of it. Your bruised infant cheek, frozen hands, shady eyeliner, Bozeman's wrinkled green loam, unclean nostrils, playing at a game of underground dust. Subtle, poor, and masochistic. A knee with a mane, trampling over the jelly roll quilt. Everyone looks away. I thought today that a week's stay in a mental unit might be a relief. God help us all. Chew local slipper. What? This is it? Just to be at ease with not being at ease? A looseness with punch holes as you count lines in flour? Or the semiotics of likelihood in a world of unnatural privilege? But he was here, and I was there to keep you, whether you would be kept or not. This is after J retard. But still, the popcorn in the sea no longer mattered. But damn, almost, I think of many damn things. Get up. You always do. We are the adventurers, and we're looking for a dog. But we're not the sky, looking for our heads to be just one stare. I made you a picture of a bird, penciled in tanagers, pigeons at sea. Then one much smaller I call folded lakes. Andy Rooney's nephew, topless, on a Coney Island bench, licking 10-ounce road erasers in Coke bottle glasses. Just be okay for me tonight. East River's strung out headlights, still pushing through covered buttons. I came to shoot hippos, but the digital world won and barfed a bit. Candy is delicious. You should eat some every day. Thank you.
Louis Warsh is the author of numerous volumes of poetry, including The Suicide Rates, Moving Through Air, Dreaming as One, Methods of Birth Control, Avenue of Escape, The Origin of the World, and Inseparable. One Foot Out the Door Collected Stories is forthcoming from Spite and Dival, and Ugly Duckling Press will publish his new poetry collection, Alien Abduction, from which he'll be reading tonight. A clear trajectory has defined the poetry of Louis Warsh from his earliest publications until today. A supple, limpid use of language and rhythm, a seemingly daily phraseology, a sublime mix of the overheard, the found, the attended to, and the personal, long ago secured him a place at the center of a revolution in poetry that continues to expand daily. Warsh's early work shared a common ear for current language with such poets as Tom Clark, Anne Waldman, and Gerard Malanga, while in his more recent poems, still partaking of the general discourse of his times, Warsh has refined his statements to a crystalline lucidity of expression that is observably his own. Warsh works in a flamboyant style bred through deceptively everyday causality, yet he is adept at subverting expectations he himself sets up, leaving the reader to recognize the person behind the poems. That person performs verbal miracles while slyly but consistently transgressing accepted social norms. One mode he is fond of is a kind of updated couplet in which he pumps up a thought or direction in the first line, only to deflate it in the second, as in his poem Eye Contact, which begins, quote, "We make eye contact across the crowded room, but I'm too tired to speak. I write her a letter, but at the last minute decide not to mail it," end of quote. Warsh has worked in many poetic modes, all of his own devising, from prosy, notebook-like entries to chiseled lyrical lines. In a longish poem called The Songbook from Alien Abduction, Warsh writes, quote, "I thought that I would live an orderly life, but instead I made a mess for which I have to admit I'm not contrite, so don't even start," end of quote. There's an affective melancholy in some of Warsh's new work that is often offset by a touch of wit, a tart reminder that things, while they may seem bad, are probably slightly ridiculous too, And the narrator of the poems, while he may seem to have a lot in common with Warsh, is not actually him, though he is us. Please welcome the narrator of his poems and Louis Warsh himself to Dia.
Thanks, Vincent. It's hard to think of oneself as by one's last name sometimes. Warsh. Superficial things. Rousseau said something about something. He said something. He said, "I'm going to give you a fat lip." The doorman held the umbrella over the head of the woman with the poodle. She was taking her dog to the vet. The doorman walked out into the middle of the street and called a taxi. He put his arm in the air, but the taxis wouldn't stop. One of the taxis splashed water from a puddle onto his uniform. It was like a scene in the movie The Birds when the actress played by Tippi Hedren runs down a road followed by the birds pecking at her skin. But maybe I'm thinking of Suzanne Plachette instead. Wasn't she the actress who got pecked to death by the birds? Not Suzanne Plachette, but the character in the movie. Lack of sleep is no excuse for stupidity. I can only retrace my steps down the side of the mountain once too often. I tried to climb the hill, but my feet were caught in the mud and the dogs were barking around a distant bonfire. The Vietnam War happened. In those days, there was a draft. A letter arrived, and you had to show up somewhere downtown and take a physical. I went armed with a letter from my eye doctor saying that my eyes didn't work together. It's true, it was all true, but they ignored the letter, so I asked to see the psychiatrist, and I told him something that wasn't true. He said, "Would you take a lie detector test?" I said, "Yes," and that was that. She stepped out of the B movie and jumped into the water. Some helicopters hover in the sky, but they never recover the body. I think I'll go down to the drugstore and fill a prescription. The medicine is beginning to take effect. It was easy to win the war as long as everyone died, and some return home empty-handed, armless, clueless. The apostrophe follows the S for the possessive, but for the plural, it comes before. The apostrophe, in case you didn't know, comes before the S. Let's begin this symphony again. Only people with a lot of money can afford these concerts. Even sitting in the last row of the top balcony is too expensive. The men toss their hats onto the stage, but I have to squint to see anything. The people waiting online are not the same people who are leaving. You can close your windows or wear earplugs when you get into bed. Hurricane John is coming. We better tape up the glass, better hide under the covers until the storm passes over. Accidents happen, mainly in the home, so you better pay attention. Like when you slice an apple, if you think about something else at the same time, you're likely to cut off one of your fingers, so be careful. I hitchhiked north and spent a few nights on the beach in Mendocino. I crawled into my sleeping bag and stared at the stars. I had the feeling like I was in prison. I mean, I was never so free as at that moment, but I was also locked up in a person who wasn't me, which might be too complicated to explain without backpedaling a million pages into the distant past. I mean, the motivation is always there, under the surface, like a pact with the bad angel and the good devil at the same time. And who knows who might appear when you least expect it, looking down at you from a corner of the ceiling in broad daylight. One sentence is ending, another beginning. The first word of each sentence begins with a capital letter. The last word is followed by a period. No, I mean a death sentence, something that never ends, time warped ad infinitum, motes of dust in the sun. Nocturne. It's possible you can see someone from a distance. after all these years and stop in your tracks or do a double take and wonder if maybe it's just someone who looks like someone you used to know, or if it's the real person, and then you walk on by, like in the song, Walk On By, and then you turn again, but the person's gone, and all you can do is haul yourself up to the roof and jump off or shoot yourself in the foot so that you can't walk, can't move, and time hangs heavy as you sit in your room and wonder if that person was him or you or someone's twin who arrived from another planet to savor the lilac scent that radiates from your skin. And the heat comes up from the pipes like Les Trois Gina Pide by Eric Satie, and I turn the key without biting my tongue, and the heart comes back on until it bleeds, and I take back with one hand what I gave with the other, and someone comes in off the street, no longer invisible, and the kissing booth closes for the night. Too bad for you, and I display my dish rag abs to the wind one last time, feel my skin on fire as I descend. The milk was sour. The milk was sour, but I drank it anyway. You must check the expiration date on the container before you buy it. I spilled the container of sour milk into the sink. The strawberries are moldy. I only bought them yesterday. It's pointless to ruin your life over love for another person. You can always go back to the store and get a refund. I ran out into the rain and went to the store for a container of milk. It's not necessary to wear clothing when you go to the store. No one in the store notices whether you're wearing clothing or not. For some animals, the ritual pattern of courtship is a dance of death. Wet streets, the entrance to the bridge, the windows of stores selling diamonds. Go back to where you started and repeat everything you said. Once I stood where Mao stood and stared down at Tiananmen Square, and once the wind blew me backwards off the Great Wall. Difference. There's a difference between being with someone and being alone, but I can't tell you what it is. There are things that I do when I'm alone that I don't do around other people, but don't ask me what they are. For instance, I might have a bone to pick with you over something that happened long ago, but you wouldn't know it by the things I say or do, or the way I swivel my hips in time to the music, an old disco record hidden away in someone's attic. It seems like a short time has passed since we woke to the sound of garbage trucks in the street and yawned, grateful to be alive, but not really. I can fell this tree with a single blow of my axe, so stand back. Splinters of wood float down from the sky and a light on your skin. The roof of my mouth is parched, but we must ration the water if we expect to get out of here in one piece. There are still some things I want to do in this life, but don't ask me what they are. Prague, Berlin, Vilnius, Odessa, some cities I want to visit. Drive up the coast, Bolinas to Point Reyes. Walk the Malecon in La Paz one last time. Written in stone. It's important to have an opinion about something before it gets too late and the world, your immediate surroundings, blows up in your face. But if you move too far from the point of origin, there's always a chance you'll get lost. And then you'll need to ask someone directions. Which way is up, and can I buy my ticket on the train? The conductor comes around and collects everyone's money. There's the chance that if you fall asleep, someone will rifle through your suitcase and take all your prescription medication and some of your underwear and socks. An extra pair of socks comes in handy on winter nights, even a pair of socks with holes in them. If you don't have any socks, then a pair with holes is better than nothing. Don't ask me about the underwear. As far as wearing someone else's underwear, you must proceed at your own risk. Meanwhile, the dining car is open and the ice is melting on the lake. The last time I went ice skating, I fell on my back and hurt my wrist. I wanted to impress someone with my athletic skills, but I ended up sitting on the sidelines with my arm in a sling. It's not the worst fate, sitting in the shadows like a wallflower while everyone else is having fun. Eventually, someone will approach you, a total stranger, and ask you to dance. You can smell the tobacco on his jacket and a kind of lilac-scented cologne as you bite into the flesh on the side of his neck. Soon the dance will be over, and he'll offer to make you a cup of hot chocolate or something. There's always a something that follows small talk or a dance, and at this point, you must show your true colors. You can hold him at arm's length or push him into the line of traffic, a homicide made to look like an accident. Don't lose your nerve. Don't lose your nerve or bite your nails down to the bone. Don't be scared if the words sound different the second time around. Hesiod said ate is the result of hubris. But what about miasma? No one knows about that. No one knows the name of the god of famine or pestilence, the goddess who leapt from the sea like a dolphin. This isn't an apology, just a statement of intent. I danced with a Mongolian woman in an after-hours club in Lhasa and threw out my back. There's the aftermath of the storm when the sky suddenly brightens. Take the word maybe to infinity, the sun sinking below the ramparts. She walks through the hall with a towel over her shoulders. It's odd to be alone in a hotel room with a stone for a heart. I admired you from a distance without daring to speak. There are no consultants, no therapists, no one to ask for advice. I say something out of place, like the royal blood of the Tartars flows through my veins, and you don't even bat an eyelash. Sometimes there are many friends, often there are none. You take my arm as we walk home through the cold. A fire rages in a warehouse in Queens, one firefighter dead. "5 o'clock shadow. There's a private party, and it's going on right now. If you haven't been invited, there's still a chance that the guy at the door might let you in exchange for a kiss. But a peck on the cheek isn't enough, not in this climate, where only the comatose and the vacuous among us have their day in the sun. My eyes, yours, a reflection in still water, what might have been. Two grasshoppers copulating under a rock. One step forward, one step back. Another chorus of Satchmo singing, 'Hello, Dolly.' I'm going to call room service. Room service? I'd like a bowl of clam chowder and a plate of mahi-mahi. Hold the lemon." I walk through the front door and out the back without thinking twice. Not only don't I know anyone at this party, but it's like I showed up at the wrong address in a dress and no one cared. Maybe I'll get into bed with a bar of halva and a box of cotton swabs and call it a day. Even though it's night and the shutters are closed, all the slipshod typists have gone home and the major arteries are backed up from Perth Amboy to Troy, hair flying over the Dead Sea, so many light years away. Durango. Cold, silent wind on a quiet evening, soda crystals, boiling water, let's make a fresh start. All the dead weight, all the riffraff. The night Pecos Pete came to town in a rickshaw and a volley of hail the size of tennis balls fell from the sky. You could buy some pills from the guy on the bench in the park, a nose on his face, unlike mine, gin and fizz. It seems like you can be two people at the same time or more. The bowels of the earth are empty and the movie theater is closed. What have we here? A story by Poe, a shark out of water, the first microwave, perpetual dawn. Promise. I was holding back something I wanted to say. It seemed like if I said it, I might hurt someone's feelings. I'm not saying you shouldn't say something for the fear it might cause someone pain. Maybe I'm saying that you shouldn't say something without taking the feelings of the person into account. There's no point in saying something about someone for the sake of saying it. You say something to somebody and that person tells someone what you said. You tell someone not to tell anyone what you're telling them, but they break the promise and tell everyone. You can't assume that anyone, even your closest friend, can keep a secret. It was hard to tell anyone what you were feeling if you thought they would tell what you said to someone else. I promise I won't tell anyone, she said, but it was just a lie. You can whisper something in someone's ear and they might repeat it to someone else. It's not a secret if you tell someone, so maybe it's best not to say anything. Best to keep everything locked inside until it kills you. Vodka. The spirit just floated out of the top of my skull like a puff of smoke and evaporated in midair. All the good feelings. You can apply the chokehold to someone you don't like and suffer the consequences. Clogged roads filled with people running from something they can't see. That's where St. Vincent's Hospital used to be. I went there one night when I had a pain in my chest, and there's the old DVD store on Greenwich Avenue, now a hardware store. My voice trails off. The clothing store on 7th Avenue you liked, the Colony, now a real estate office. I used to buy you gift certificates there for your birthday. Who you kidding? Mind your manners. Fork on left, knife on right. That can't be right. Intelligent people sit in the caboose, but the daredevils go up front. They want to look out the window and see what's coming. Describe the hotel room in perfect detail. Eclipse the taste of defeat from the night before, a negation placed before a verb or after. Situation wanted. Just call me Big Lou. You know where to find me. Down at the corner, sucking a smoothie through a straw. Now you can smile like any goody two-shoes. Who knows where he's going when he leaves the room? Bend down to tie shoelaces on crowded boulevard. The tinctures of memory begin to fade like an old wound. Nothing but liquids can pass into the stomach. Think about unity, a thankless task. I stammer in my excitement. You set the alarm for 3 a.m. Each word sounds different. Tongue, mouth, lips, the shape of the letters, a tea bag and hot water. The old, the young, the miserly, all of you can get off at the next stop. I'll take a lie detector test if it makes you happy to tell you the truth. I don't have a clue. My gaze is unblinking, as if there's no tomorrow. My lips are moist, as if tomorrow never came. We live in dreamtime, expand, contract, backseat referendum, sustenance guaranteed. Every passing stranger. Sometimes you have to twist someone's arm to get them to do your bidding. Even basic understanding of a situation depends on brute force. Pay attention to the details. She sipped her tea like a pigeon, and so forth. The aim is to blame others for everything that went wrong. Wait till your subscription runs out and see what you missed. Things got interesting as soon as you left the room. Aviator glasses, dead flowers in a carafe. Perhaps she was playing at being in love. All my cards were on the table. No point in pushing the panic button before time runs out. No reason to pull the plug or hedge your bets. The homecoming queen is taking a breather on the veranda. There's a jack in the trunk if you get a flat. You can always show up at the last minute like the flim-flam man and make your excuses. It's time to remove your crinoline, shake off the cobwebs, and bask in the sun. The radar gun is on the blink. How fast were you going? It's important to step on the gas when you pass through the intersection. The demons retreat into their hovels, shouting bloody murder, and life dwindles down to a few precious minutes, enough time for a double espresso at the no-name bar, if that's your want. And this is the last poem. It's called New Travelogue. I stumbled out of the bushes to see a deer drink from a pool. I climbed into the hills above Berkeley, one step at a time. I went to Prince Edward Island, where Anne of Green Gables' face is on the license plate. A hawk or a condor flew over our house. I bought a carton of smokes at the duty-free shop in Anchorage, took a Seconal in Frankfurt, and woke up in New York. I bothered my friends with my troubles. I was never not alone. I postponed pleasure until it was almost gone. I stared out over the North Sea, waiting for rain. I wandered through the red light district in Amsterdam in the middle of night. I rode on the back of a motorcycle over a mountain on Christmas Eve. I floated on my back in the ocean at Maui, stared out the window of my hotel room over the rooftops of Florence, took LSD in Paris and sat on a bench in the Luxembourg Gardens, rented a hotel room in Liverpool, but couldn't sleep. I missed my flight from Madrid to Lisbon, found an apartment on the Panhandle and drank tea in Golden Gate Park. I was caught stealing at Safeway. I could never return. A Chinese acupuncturist came to my house when I threw out my back and couldn't move. I woke up in an apartment on 5th Street and listened to the roosters crow on someone's roof. I visited her in her house overlooking the ocean, and she let me in. I put out my hand to touch you, but the bed was empty. I wheeled a stroller down an icy New England street, waited under a canopy in the rain, but she never came. I stood in front of a classroom with paint stains on my shoes, called the suicide hotline, but no one answered. I dropped everything I was doing and ran into the street, drove a car with faulty transmission until a fire started under the hood. I ate Indian food on a balcony in Cape Town. I sang karaoke in a bar in Tibet. Something I meant to say comes back to haunt me in my sleep. I turn the key in the lock and call your name. Her face appears out of nowhere, making a shadow on the page. There's only one stone, and it weighs a ton. Thank you all.